Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Ferguson, and this is my presentation that I did for my white paper. The initial subject for my white paper was to address the growing need for professionals within STEM career fields. And as I started to look into some of the stats for these career fields, it became apparent to me that there was a second issue, which was the underrepresentation of both minorities and women within STEM career fields. So it became clear to me that it was going to be possible to address both situations by addressing the diversity issue. So the STEM industries, or STEM actually is just an acronym for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and all the career fields that fall under those. So a lot of the social sciences fall in there. Obviously, a lot of the medical, technical career fields, IT career fields, and all of the engineering career fields, of course. So most of these stats here are from 2021, but there are almost 35 million Americans in STEM career fields, which account for 24% of the total workforce. And their average annual salary is nearly $100,000 a year. Um, so that 35 million number is actually up 6 million from the 29 million it was back in 2011. And in 2011, they also STEM professionals also represented only 21% of the population. So all these numbers are expected to grow, especially that larger number there, the 35 million. They're expecting that to go up by an additional 10% as we close out 2025. And that salary of 97 or $98,000 a year is more than double the national average, and it's already up $10,000 from where it was in 2015, and is expected to be somewhere around $110,000 by the end of 2025. So STEM actually, when we look at the representation within these STEM career fields, we see that 9% of professionals are Black or African American, 15% are Hispanic, and 33% are women. But that 33% of women in STEM career fields is actually much lower than that when you eliminate the social sciences from those career fields. Then that percentage of women involved actually drops underneath 20%. And engineering and mathematics, women actually represent about 14% of the total professionals in those career fields. So the solution obviously would be for us to tap into more of of, of these underrepresented classes here, um, our minorities and women, and, and find more talented and professionals to enter those career fields. So these are actually graduation rates from colleges within STEM career fields. So the United States is at 20% of their total graduates. This is in 2022. The total graduates um, for bachelor's degrees were in STEM career fields, which is actually up 5% from where it was back in 2012. But these numbers still fall way behind a lot of these other countries, Germany, India, and China's numbers are expected to be somewhere around 35% as well, but they're not releasing numbers to the greater public. But it's clear that there's not enough potential, even with these numbers going up in the United States, there's still not enough potential professionals in the pipeline to fill the need of all the jobs that are across the country. So the first way I thought to address this issue was through hiring practices to um, either hire more minorities and more women into these career fields, either through policies enacted by the companies or just industry partners, but or through policies put forth by the government. But as I looked through those, it became pretty clear early on that a lot of these incentives and mandates already exist for both minorities and women, and that's for as it's more holistic. It's like meant to cover all professions, but even then, it's not effective for many reasons. You find that women and minorities are hired into these career fields or into these companies, but don't progress too far in their careers. They don't move into those upper levels of leadership. The reasoning for that is typically because a lot of those are forced hires and they're not the companies aren't as invested in those employees. And those employees then move out of those industries and move into other areas and find growth that way. But specifically in these STEM fields, you'll find that the management positions are predominantly filled with non-minorities and non-women. So education became the second area where we can look, which was to either funnel more students or prospective professionals into um, STEM programs to get them, you know, educated and ready to enter these career fields. But as I looked at those numbers, I noticed that they're actually overrepresented in all these programs. So a lot of these bachelor degree programs, they're the minority population is overrepresented and the female population as well. But once again, this is one of those situations where those social sciences are a huge factor there. When we remove those social sciences, there's less women in those career fields. Still a good representation within those programs. They're still well represented, but not as nearly high of numbers. So these are graduation rates. We've this is a study conducted by UC, all their campuses, UC Berkeley, UCLA. Um, you'll see that the students that come into their programs, non-minority students, they graduate typically within 4 years at about 50%, and it takes them 5 years. 77% take 5 years. Everyone else obviously doesn't. Either moves into different majors or they end up not graduating. And then minority numbers are significantly lower, especially when you look at the 4 year mark. So um, there's reasons for that, and UC Berkeley, in their research, they determined that that's due to their preparedness. So UC Berkeley puts out a preparedness score, or they scored their prospective students, and they found that a lot of the minority students came in with much lower preparedness scores. That's due to um, not taking enough preparatory courses in high school, or not coming from programs that were designed specifically to funnel into um, these STEM programs. But they noticed that those lower scores that they were admitting were they were either having to take prep courses out on campus, move to different campuses, or they just weren't graduating in STEM programs at all. They were either moving to another career field or just not graduating. And the students that had higher or average scores, they usually stayed on those main campuses and they had a much higher chance, almost double the chance of graduating within 4 years. So what I noticed was my initial thoughts of how to approach the situation, typically through policy, didn't seem to be the correct way. So directly, hiring more minorities and women, or funneling more of them into these programs, it didn't seem to be an effective strategy. Most of those policies were already in place and they weren't proving to be effective. But I did notice a lot of the effective solutions were a lot of preparatory things. So things that preparing prospective students either while they're still in high school through STEM programs in their high schools, um, opening up more STEM schools so they can focus in those areas, and STEM camps that students can attend through in partnership with these universities that allow them to get an idea for what career fields they might be interested in and drive that interest up. So, for the intervention techniques that are in place for women currently in STEM fields is to drive their interest, and these STEM camps are a huge proponent of that. And so the next thing is obviously those preparatory courses, more of those being available, even once students have arrived on campus, if they're underprepared, putting them in programs that allow them to be prepared and get them back on track to graduate within a reasonable amount of time, or establishing that those students maybe should be attending smaller campuses or smaller programs so they can get more attention in those areas and be able to focus in on specific um, industries within STEM. But by far the most effective method that I picked up on was through mentorship. So when there is a faculty driven mentorship program on campuses, the graduation numbers just they go up a whole. They're almost double when these programs are on campuses. So it just seems these are the most effective ways to solve both of these problems.